The U.S. wants to acquire Greenland, and Donald Trump won't take the use of military force off the table. This has many EU and NATO countries alarmed and wondering what's next for the future of transatlantic relations. Perceptions of the United States are changing, as is the rules-based order that has dominated international relations in modern times. Now joining us to discuss these issues and more is Michael Carpenter, Senior Fellow for Transatlantic Affairs at the International Institute for Strategic Studies. Hello, it's great to see you, and thank you so much for joining us on World News Tonight.
My pleasure.
Yes. Now, starting off here, the latest European Council of Foreign Relations poll shows a dramatic shift in global perceptions. In your view, is America genuinely losing Europe, or is this a temporary crisis in transatlantic relations?
Well, I think it's pretty clear if you look at the polling that the United States is, in fact, losing Europe, to use your term. It's hemorrhaging soft power actually around the world. Trust in the United States is at an all-time low. And if you look at, for example, our neighbor Canada, which has been one of our longest standing and most reliable allies in the world, with which we do an immense amount of commerce every day, Canadians look at the United States now as the chief threat to their country. We've surpassed China in that category just in the course of the last 12 months under the Trump administration. So a lot of our allies now fear the United States. They worry about our territorial claims to their territory. That's the case with Panama. That's the case with Canada. It's the case with Denmark when it comes to Greenland. And many allies worry about whether the United States would defend them under an Article 5 scenario. So yes, the world is changing dramatically, and the United States is aligning itself with authoritarian states, and it's distancing itself from fellow democracies. This is something that we've never done.
Right. What's particularly striking is that in Russia, views of the EU have hardened dramatically, while views of the United States have softened. Putin now sees Europe as the main adversary, not Washington. Is this all Donald Trump's doing?
Well, frankly, it is. I mean, this is the foreign policy of this administration that has completely changed the map of geopolitics around the world. I mean, we've imposed tariffs on both democratic sort of hedging states like Brazil and South Africa and India. We have antagonized allies like Germany because senior U.S. politicians have met with extremist far-right parties in places like Germany, but not just there, in other countries as well. And as I said, we've led our allies to question whether we will be there for them if there were an attack that would fall under NATO's Article 5. And so although the Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, and others have tried to sort of cling to the United States and to President Trump, in fact, President Trump is rewriting the global order and changing the rules that are familiar to most of our allies and adversaries alike.
Yes. Now let's turn to Greenland. Trump refuses to take military options off the table, and Denmark has drawn a red line, and European NATO members are deploying troops. How seriously should we take this threat of actual U.S. military intervention and annexation?
Well, I think it has to be taken seriously. I think in the beginning, when Trump first raised this issue during the first term, and perhaps during the initial months of this administration, there were some who thought that this was simply trolling, that Trump was trying to either play to his base or trying to provoke some sort of a quarrel with liberal internationalists, perhaps with members of previous administrations that valued NATO and alliances, but people didn't take it seriously. I think now they have to take it seriously. Because there have been reports that that U.S. officials and the American proxies in Greenland are trying to create support for the incorporation of Greenland into the United States. And so whether you would classify this as sort of an active measures campaign or a shaping the environment type of campaign, or however you see it, it has to be taken seriously.
We're seeing a bipartisan pushback in the U.S. Senate against any Greenland annexation. Does congressional opposition actually constrain Trump, or is this just symbolic?
Well, I think congressional opposition, congressional politics still matter. So the fact that there are some Republicans in Congress, Republicans because they're from Trump's party, I think that makes a difference. I think that constrains the field of action a little bit. And certainly there's been some Democrats as well who have been very vocal in saying that this could undermine the NATO alliance. There's a bill from Senator Murkowski and Senator Shaheen that would make it impossible for the Pentagon to fund activities that would lead to the incorporation of Greenland into the United States. And so there are congressional moves afoot to try to message displeasure, if you like, with the president's policies. But whether that is enough or not, I mean, this is coming from President Trump himself. And, I think those members of his administration that are skeptical are having to fall into line. So, it remains to be seen whether there's enough counterpressure from Congress to prevent him from moving in this direction.
Some argue that Trump's Greenland gambit is really about China and Arctic resources, not territorial expansion. But the effect on European security is the same. How should Europe respond to these threats against a member state?
Well, I don't buy the argument that this is some sort of 3D chess where the United States is really, in fact, concerned about great power competition with Russia and China. I mean, look at the Trump administration's attitude towards Russia. It has been appeasement from day one. There have been no tariffs. There have been minimal sanctions on Russia. President Trump rolled out the red carpet for President Putin in Alaska. I could go on and on. The pressure on Ukraine has been enormous to make territorial concessions. The dislike of NATO and of the European Union is palpable. And so, I think that this is really all about Russian and Chinese ambitions. I think that's a false lead. That's a red herring. Also, the administration is inclined to make sort of a rapprochement with China. I don't think the president wants to decouple with China. I think he wants some sort of accommodation. And so I don't think this is about that. And besides, if it were, Denmark and Greenland have both provided the U.S. military with assurances that we can use whatever assets and bases on the island that we need and want, and we could even build out that footprint further. So I don't think this is about security. I think this is about territorial aggrandizement. It's something that the president wants. It's a feather in his cap that he would like to have for the historical record books for his legacy. And so I think that's what's driving this particular policy.
Okay, well, we'll have to obviously observe the situation a little bit more. Michael Carpenter, it was great to have you to shed some light on this, these very complex issues. Senior Fellow for Transatlantic Affairs at International Institute for Strategic Studies. Thank you so much, and have a great evening.
My pleasure.
And that concludes this edition of World News Tonight. Thank you all for joining us. Have a great evening, and we'll see you next time. Good night.